Hey guys, my name is Seth, and I'm going to be talking about dizziness and brain fog, all that fun stuff. So, I did a video back in 2008, so that was 7 years before the filming of this here. I did a video about my struggle with dizziness since childhood, since the age of 7, and I give a detailed background on the dizziness. So, this video is kind of an update to that. Things have changed. Things have gotten worse. So we're going to talk about that. So I've struggled with dizziness, on again, off again, dizzy spells, since I was 7 years old, and I would have the spells would happen irregularly. There was didn't seem to be much rhyme or reason to them. They would just happen, and they were. It wasn't rotational vertigo. I don't remember having rotational vertigo. This was disequilibrium, feeling off balance, and tilting sensations. So these spells would last a few days, as long as a week, and then and then and then I'd have an unpredictable period where I wasn't dizzy, so it could be another week, 2 weeks, a month even, and then I would have another spell that would last a few days to a week. Usually, I shouldn't say usually, but oftentimes it wasn't a crippling kind of dizziness. It was uncomfortable and it slowed me down, but it wasn't incapacitating. Although I did miss a lot of school because of it, because of the spells. And when it was really bad, I'd spend more time in bed, but I could still walk, and function largely okay. It was just very uncomfortable, so I'd stay home from school. So it went to the doctor. Doctor couldn't figure out what was wrong. He thought maybe it was allergies, so he prescribed Benadryl, and that didn't do anything. So he just eventually kind of threw his hands up in the air and said, "I'm just gonna have to learn to live with it." And he did test my heart also, and there was no problems with my heart. And then I got older, and nothing really changed. I still had spells, every now and then. Some years were worse than others. I had a few years where didn't really have much of any spells. Um, what else? So yeah, I had some good years, had some years that were not so good, but overall, it didn't seem to get any worse as I got older. If anything, it seemed to get better as I got older. Of course, it could just be because as an adult, I was focused on other things. You know, having a job, having responsibilities, being focused on those things probably took my attention away from it. So I'm sure I had some mild spells, that I didn't even notice much. Um, I can remember, some stronger spells where I almost had to call in sick to work, um, simply because it was so uncomfortable. And again, off balance kind of feeling, tilting sensation, just feeling like your balance isn't right. So that was that. And if you want a more detailed background on all that, on those years from the time I was 7 up until I did the video in 2008, watch the video. I'm going to put a link to it right here. So be sure and watch that for more information on that. So moving forward in time, things got interesting. And I do have an anxiety disorder also, I should mention that. And the having anxiety does make dizziness worse, but the problems, my balance problems, do seem to be independent of anxiety because I had dizziness way before the anxiety disorder. started. So, about 6 months ago, I had what I believe was an ear infection. I woke up one morning and my right ear was stuffy, plugged up. Hearing was muffled. Actually, I had quite a bit of hearing loss. And I could hear my voice in my ear really loud when I would talk. And brushing my teeth, combing my hair, and chewing food was really loud in my right ear. And that's a condition called autophony. I think that means you eustachian tube that goes from the middle ear to the throat. There's a tube there, and I think that's when the tube is stuck open, if I'm not mistaken. And so sounds from within your body get transmitted directly into your ear, and it's really loud. So I just woke up one morning with that. And I didn't really think at the time that it was an ear infection. I just thought it was allergies. My ear was plugged up, and didn't really think much of it. It was a little annoying, but looking back on it now, I really regret not going to the doctor and getting that treated, because I believe it was an ear infection that caused damage to my balance nerve, the nerve that goes from the balance organ in the inner ear to the brain, to the balance center of the brain. And viral and bacterial infections can cause a lesion on that nerve, which then leads to vestibular neuritis, I believe. I'm not a doctor, so anything I talk about is just based on my own understanding of these things and my own experiences. So I believe I had some damage to my inner ear nerve, because right around that time I noticed I was having a dizzy spell, a lot like the dizzy spells I'd had in the past, but this was a little bit stronger, and I seemed to have some sensitivity, some oversensitivity to head movements. And then so I had this, what I believe to be an ear infection, and this lasted about, seems like it lasted at least 3 weeks. Might have lasted a little bit more than a month. I don't remember. But this was all 6 months ago that it started. So right around the time it started, I was dizzy. I was having problems with dizziness. And one night, it suddenly got really bad. Like, it was hard to walk. And I wasn't having specifically rotational vertigo, but I was having like a rocking sensation, real strong disequilibrium, much stronger than a lot of my other spells from the past. And it was just hard to walk, and my head was really sensitive to motion, and looking at a TV screen with motion on it bothered me. I couldn't handle that. And that was the first time I've ever experienced that. So I think what happened this time was that the mechanism that caused my dizziness this time was different than the mechanism that had caused the dizziness since I was 7. It was right around the time when I was a kid. I'd just come down with chicken pox. So it wasn't long after that I started having these the dizzy spells, the childhood dizzy spells that's lasted the rest of my life, up to and including now. But this latest spell, though, I think was caused by an ear infection. It just seemed different. The dizzy spell seemed different than the others. Much more intense, but I didn't realize it at the time. I thought, okay, well, this is probably just one of my regular severe dizzy spells. It'll be gone in a week. Wasn't gone in a week. Nope. It got worse. And I was really freaking out. So I managed to get myself to the doctor, and she did the Dix-Hallpike test to test for a condition called BPPV, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, which are basically little crystals in the inner ear that come loose. And when they come loose, they brush up against all the little hairs inside the cochlea, or cochlea? No, the vestibule. Oh no, the semicircular canal. Excuse me, inside the inner ear, and it creates rotational vertigo when you position your head in certain positions. You know, like to the side, or looking up, looking down, that sort of thing. But the test didn't reveal anything with that. But she still thought I might have BPPV, so she had me do some Epley maneuvers and didn't help. Didn't do anything but make me even more dizzy. Um, so the one thing that I noticed with this spell compared to the other ones was that tipping my head down, pitching it down created just absolutely intense dizziness, like the worst of it. So I was already dizzy no matter what position I was in, but tipping my head down made it so much worse, which kind of led the doctor to believe that maybe it was benign positional vertigo, but it, the Epley maneuvers would have fixed that, and I would have had a positive Dix-Hallpike test. Yeah, so it was like a chaotic sense of motion, which can, I think, be considered a type of vertigo. I couldn't tolerate tipping my head down for more than a few seconds, and it just got so intense. Just incredible rocking sensations, and disequilibrium was 10 times worse doing that, so I couldn't tip my head down. And when I did tip my head down, objects appeared to flutter and vibrate and jiggle, which tells me that my eyes were, bouncing around. And that's a typical, that is a neurological effect of dizziness, is you have a nystagmus, if I'm pronouncing that right, which is jumpy eyes. Yeah. So things just kept getting worse and worse and worse up until like the 4th week, 5th week, 6th week, something like that. It got so bad, it was so hard to walk and function. I barely turned my head. Like I was sensitive to turning my head, in any which way. I'd just get super dizzy, So it was the movement of the head, but it was also the positioning of the head too that did it. So looking down, and if I were to look in any other direction, I'd get a little extra dizzy. But then moving my head back to the straight and level orientation was killer. I got so dizzy moving my head I could be in any position. I wouldn't get as dizzy doing this, but then I'd tip my head back to level, and wow, it was just so intense. Just so intense. So exaggerated sense of movement in any which way. So I was kind of misguided, to start with. I don't have access to a specialist, an inner ear specialist, a balance specialist. So it's kind of left to do a lot of research on the internet to figure this out. And, at first I thought it would be best to just sit still and not move. Move as little as possible. And wow, that was such a misguided thing to do, really. Because our natural instinct is to avoid the dizziness and not be in positions that make us uncomfortable. But that's not what you want to do. So I think that contributed to me getting worse and worse and worse. I didn't realize at the time that I probably had damage to my inner ear nerve. And sitting, doing nothing was not helping me. So I started reading about the importance of staying active as you can be, and doing vestibular rehabilitation therapy exercises. So about, a couple months into this, 2.5 months into this ordeal, I started doing very simple head movements as a way to desensitize my my inner ear processes, my balance system. The idea of vestibular rehabilitation exercises are that, again, they desensitize you to motion that causes you to be dizzy, and positions, head positions that make you dizzy as well. And it's also a form of neuroplasticity in that it trains your brain to work around the damaged inner ear nerve, to bypass the damaged inner ear nerve, the nerve that's sending conflicting signals to your brain. Because you're getting, if you have a damaged inner ear on one side, unilateral, it's going to send conflicting signals to your brain, and that's what creates dizziness and vertigo. So the idea of VRT, vestibular rehabilitation therapy, I'm just going to refer to it from now on as VRT just to save some time. So this video is already turning out to be kind of long. Using VRT and doing it regularly, and staying active too. Walking, moving your head side to side as you walk, and doing different things. I mean, there's a lot of facets to VRT. Some of it is fixing your gaze on something and moving your head so that you train your eyes and your brain to work together. And then other movements, that you do with your eyes closed to force your brain to reinterpret the faulty signals and to work around those faulty signals, to ignore the faulty signals coming from your inner ear nerve. So it's a form of neuroplasticity. Bypassing that inner ear nerve. So the brain is picking up the slack, doing the job that the inner ear nerve is supposed to be doing, but isn't doing because it's got a lesion on it or whatever your condition is. But VRT exercises are tailored for specific inner ear disorders. Mine is undiagnosed. I don't know what it is for sure. I suspect I know what it is, but I don't know for sure. And I don't have access to a balance therapist. So I came up with my own version of exercises. And, this is where I could use your help. If you have experience with VRT, contact me. Give me a call. I'm going to put my phone number up here for you to call me, because I'd like to talk to you and ask you questions about your experience with it, what your doctor told you about doing VRT. And I don't know if I'm doing them right, if I'm doing the exercises too much. But I've read, that you're only supposed to do 2 exercises at a time for about 20 minutes a day, twice a day. Well, I've been doing 45 minutes every morning and then another 15 or so at night. And sometimes I wonder if I'm doing too much. But I'm doing all kinds of head movements, like a lot of different ones. And I'm doing repetitions, at least 5 repetitions of each one. And I'll twirl around a few times, and I'll do that with my head level, tipped up, pitched down. I'll do some head rolls, like this, and some side steps, some shuffling, side to side shuffling, and front to back shuffling, and some rapid side to side head movements, head swinging like this, looking forward at an object and doing this. I'm doing vertical head swings, doing head swings also where I'm not looking at any particular object. I don't know if that's the proper thing to do. And then I'm doing a lot of exercises with my eyes closed as well, some balance exercises where I'll stand heel to toe, close my eyes, and try to maintain that posture for 30 seconds. That is one exercise that's listed on some websites. And then I just kind of move my head around with my eyes closed in that heel to toe position. And, at first I was falling over, and now I've got it down pretty good. So this whole VRT routine that I've been doing on my own, I have consulted with my doctor about it. Obviously, she's a physician and not a specialist, but she seems to think it's okay what I'm doing. I'm not so sure if maybe I'm overdoing it here. My dizziness has gotten a lot better. A lot better. My response to motion is a lot better too. I don't get nearly as dizzy now. when I switch head position, when I move my head around. And I don't get that dizzy when I pitch my head down anymore, unless I keep it there for quite some time. I mean, the longer I keep it down, the more dizzy I get. But I don't like, if I tip my head down to do the dishes, I don't get terribly dizzy if I'm got my head down for 10 minutes. Before, I couldn't even keep my head down for 10 seconds. So I've gotten a lot better with the dizziness. And I exercise after I do my VRT. I go and I jog for 20 minutes a day, regardless of how I'm feeling. I do some weightlifting. So I do that for another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then I generally will rest for quite a while after that. I go out and I drive, because driving requires you to move your head around, and to be alert and focused and, fixate your eyes on objects. So I do that, and so here's the problem, and I hope I'm not missing anything that I was going to say in this video. But the major problem I'm dealing with now, and this could be, I don't know, but this could be because I'm doing too much, or it could be a natural part of recovery. The more that I'm kicking the dizziness to the curb, the better I'm getting with dizziness, the more I'm dealing with, gnats in here flying around, the more I'm dealing with brain fog, brain fatigue, and headaches, and kind of feeling a little dissociated, just feeling kind of disconnected, which is kind of a scary feeling. I don't like that feeling. But I'll have a week where I'm doing pretty good with the dizziness. When I'm doing good with the dizziness, naturally I'm more active. I do more. I get out. I'm more active. I do things that require me to have my head in different positions, moving around. So I'll be real active for a few days. But then the week after that is utter hell. I'll have, just the worst headache, on and off, with brain fog, brain fatigue, and it feels like it's directly related to increasing my level of activity. Same thing happens when I increase my VRT routine, when I do more exercises. And maybe I'm increasing it too much too fast, I don't know. But it's just a week of just horrible brain fog. It just feels like my brain's was just overloaded. And it kind of varies a little bit. Sometimes I'll be more headachy. Other times I'll have more of the brain fog, or I'll have more of the brain fatigue, or I just feel mentally tired. And sometimes I'll have all three of them. And sometimes I'll feel a little spacey, and it's not a good feeling. So my question to you, if you've been through this before, is do these neurological symptoms go away? I think I know why they happen. My theory is that they happen because the brain is working extra hard to work around the faulty inner ear signal. So the brain, the neuroplasticity process requires more brain power, more brain processing. So it's got to work harder to do what the inner ear nerve should be doing. So once I'm compensating for the bad inner ear nerve, the brain picking up the slack, the work, am I going to feel like this forever? Is this something I'm going to have to live with the rest of my life? And I have to be honest with you. Even though my dizziness has gotten better and it's been a very slow recovery, I have never been more depressed in my life. I'm dealing with feelings of hopelessness, like just feeling frustrated and not knowing what the future is going to hold for me. Am I going to have these problems forever? On dizziness on and off, and have to go through all this VRT and have brain fog issues, and I haven't seen the end of the brain fog and the neurological stuff yet. And it just really gets me down. I'd like to think I'm going to, not only beat the dizziness completely, but the brain fog too, but I don't know that. I haven't completely crossed to the other side of this disorder, so maybe some of you can talk to me about it and tell me, what happens after the dizziness disappears. The dizziness isn't completely gone. It's still there, and there are still some days where I'm dizzy. But all in all, it's getting better. But with any illness, recovery is not a straight line. There's going to be ups and downs along the way. But it's the overall trends that you're looking for. So I want to hear from you about the brain fog, about the VRT. Maybe give me an idea if you think I'm doing too much. There is a such thing as doing too little. Because if you aren't active enough, and only your doctor or VRT specialist can really give you an answer on that. But if you do too little after you have gotten better, your brain will decompensate. It'll unlearn all those therapies you did, and you don't want that. So I don't know if I'm going to need to do these exercises to maintain my level of recovery. Whether I can decrease these eventually, because I'm sure once I decrease these exercises, the brain fog will get a little bit better. Because like I said, it seems to be tied to increasing the amount of activity that I do. So I've gone through periods where the brain fog's gotten really bad, and then it's gotten better. And then I've gotten, and then I'll have a good week, and I'll do more, and then I'm right back dealing with the brain fog again. So another aspect of these neurological symptoms is, I also feel an increase of these neurological symptoms when I put my head when I pitch my head down in what used to cause intense dizziness. So instead of having an intense dizzy response to having my head pitched down like this, I'll get sometimes immediate brain fog and immediate headache. So I think that's how I can tell that it's the vestibular condition leading to that brain fog. So I'll feel it acutely after doing that, and just in general being active. And I'll have to slow down sometimes and rest for a while and let things settle a little bit, but the brain fog usually doesn't completely go away for a few more days. So yeah, I'm not sure if I need to be a little more steady about this, because I'll be less active on days where I have horrible brain fog, and I'm scared that on those days I'm not doing enough, and that I'm going to decompensate and have brain fog from decompensating, because now you're getting bad signals from the inner ear, and it could be tricking the brain and causing neurological symptoms from that itself. But I have heard that dizzy disorders can cause brain fog. It's very demanding on the brain to deal with dizziness. So tell me your experiences. I want to hear from you guys who have been through this. Give me some tips and advice. Give me a call. There's my number again. Well, if you've watched up till the end, thanks for sticking with me. And again, I want to hear from you guys. I want some support from my fellow sufferers. I have really no one to talk to about it. No one that I know personally who has these problems. So